gonna?
Well, I don't know, doesn't matter.
Oh, excuse me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Yes.
Debbie, I think item number, top of page 2, where they were talking about the Regional Economic Development Group. There were representatives from Henry, Rush, Union, Wayne, Fayette, and I believe there was one other one. But for the life of me, I'm not sure I can tell you which one it was.
So I'm missing one.
I think we're missing one. I think there's 6 counties. But
Yeah, and if
Would
they
you
did,
know-
I don't know whether they,
No, I don't. I'm trying to think of
whether they stayed at that.
so for the purpose of having them complete, I will get that other missing county.
Okay.
Rush, Wayne, Union, Henry, Fayette, and was it Randolph?
I can find out tomorrow. I'm gonna know.
Okay.
I think Decatur's in that south.
I think is Decatur Muncie?
No, Decatur's Greensboro.
Okay. Then it
Muncie's
prob-
Delaware.
Okay, then I think it is not Muncie, but it might be.
It might be Delaware. I'll find out tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Not, could we have a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Any mail? Debbie, do you have any?
No, I didn't.
Anyone else receive any mail for the week? Nor have I. There was an invitation, I believe, in the mail for the hospital. The announcement.
Everybody's phones.
The announcement, I think they had a ceremony this afternoon about their investment up in the north end of town, $2.5 million investment to add additional medical facilities for seniors, and I'm not just sure what all there was, but something very good for the county, and wish them best with that. AJ, that brings us down to county attorney.
Okay.
Anything?
I don't have anything on my table, but I guess I've been forewarned that I might get questions tonight, so, by the county.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for AJ at
Yes.
this point in time?
Yes, I do.
All right, Mark.
AJ, this has to do with the edit money. Some of the people have asked me questions, and I think I know some of the answers, but I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
One person asked, the building out the highway garage and the animal shelter need a lot of work. Can we use any of that money for those 2 facilities?
I would say yes, if put into the capital improvement plan. If the commissioners wanted to place it in the capital improvement plan,
Okay.
perhaps. It couldn't be simply appropriated to it though. Like it is, basically, it automatically goes toward the bond payments of the courthouse.
Okay.
If it's not in the capital improvement plan, then I'd say no.
Okay. A second thing, could the insurance on the buildings, the sheriff's cars and stuff, could that be covered through that? We use that money for that? To cover the insurance on the buildings, the jail, the annex?
To be honest with you, Mark, I think we're going down a pretty slippery slope if we start using the edit funds for simply covering cost of insurance with buildings entirely not related to the courthouse.
Can we do it for the courthouse?
I would say yes. That is
Okay.
an operational expense.
Okay. One thing,
And I want to put on record, why I think so. It simply protects the investment that the bond has purchased,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
and that would be why.
Okay, that makes sense, okay. Can we establish a so-called like rainy day fund for some unexpected, you know, like put some dollars in for unexpected things that might arise?
I don't believe so, and I'll tell you exactly why.
Okay.
There's section F on our section, section 27.
Okay, section F you call it?
Yes, it is section F, so 27F. County economic development income tax revenues derived from the tax rate imposed under this section may not be used for purposes other than those described in this section. And so in that section, and certainly the statute, the ordinance that the Fayette County Council passed under this,
Yeah.
it had, we've got the constructing, acquiring, improving, renovating, equipping, or operating the county courthouse or related facilities. 2, repaying any bonds issued or leases entered into for constructing, acquiring, improving, renovating, equipping, or operating the county courthouse or related facilities. And 3, economic development projects described in the county's capital improvement plan. So unless that's in a capital improvement plan, and I don't know why it would be in a capital improvement plan, and 1 and 2 of that section, and then I think it gets kicked out. I really do. And that's why. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's,
What about money that was previously appropriated into the, per the capital plan, money that was appropriated but was unspent in past years? Could any of that unspent money from prior years go to rainy day?
I believe if that prior money should actually, if it's not used by Fayette County, by the council to go toward the county or go to the capital improvement plan, then that's going to need to be released to the other county entities that also receive edit money.
but that's after 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we accumulate money over a 3-year period, and when the 3rd year, the 4th year comes, do we only release the 1 year? And you know what I mean? So we still have 2 years we can leave in there? Or do we have to release all?
I believe it would be, if it's accumulated for 3 years, then you're going to have to release the 3 years accumulation. That's it.
Well, 1 year would only be, one part of it would only be in there for 1 year.
Well, you're right. I mean,
So,
I still think, though, the way the statute reads,
Okay.
it's 3 years, and that's
So
because you
3
haven't,
years and we got it.
yeah, you haven't used it
Okay.
for 3 years. So,
all right. That's all I have right now.
okay.
Thank you, AJ. Item number 5, reports. Commissioners representative. Barton asked me if I could make just a few comments of what went on this morning. Jay, the highway department, was telling us he's going to be needing some of his money from his part-time account because he's got a gentleman who is on sick leave right now and not expected to come back in the next, 4 to 8 weeks. So you want to speak to that a little bit, Jay?
What it is, we hired a part-time employee to replace the truck driver that's off hurt. And I'm needing to bring another part-time man in to help with the sign inventory because he's doing all these railroad crossings and it's more work than one guy can handle. And I don't want to pull my truck drivers away from other projects to do this, to make us short-handed out on the road when we start chip sealing and stuff like that. And plus I can use him for mowing when they start the mowing season. Hopefully he'll be done with his crossing signs and stuff like that when we get ready to do the mowing season. And we can use him for that. I've got enough money in there to do it because the man who's off, his salary will be coming back into part-time to make up the difference.
Okay, thank you, Jim. I think Ben Houston had heard from the health department, Matt Shirk, they'd received an emergency preparedness grant, and I didn't write down the amount, but he asked Ben if there was a way that they could increase or improve the network for the health department / county, if that would be acceptable to use it for that. And so I think that's the direction they're going, or hoping to do that. Pete Bell came and gave an update for the economic Development Group, we'll talk about that when we get down there. Keep going down. Jerry Gobin talked about Bridge 61. He's asking ahead of time for approval for an inspection contractor. He had 2 different quotes, and I believe the commissioners decided on the lowest proposal to inspect the bridges when they get started this summer, later on Bridge 61. He had a second request asking to approve hourly rate line items to work on County Bridge number 43, rather than giving somebody the approval to do the entire list of things they want to do to upgrade Bridge 43. If he goes line item by line item and just approves them at an hourly rate as they are required. So that was on Bridge 43. Michelle Dudley came in and gave a talk about the plumbing issues that they've been having over at the community corrections. It was kind of comical because the water, I understand, to flush the commodes and out of the faucets was coming out cold, and the hot water, cold water in the showers and hot water in the where it didn't belong. Anyhow, there was a mixer valve that went bad upstairs, and it took quite substantial work for Powell's Plumbing to come in. They were able to repair it and save the valve because it was like a $1,700 valve. Anyhow, there's a bill. But they want to they want to install a water softener. Otherwise, that would just continue to keep happening. The lines were all corroded. She brought in evidence of the calcium and iron that they cleaned out of the lines. The advisory board for the commissioner, the group recommended that they accept a quote from Powell's, and I think the commissioners also agreed with that. Barton recommended at that time that the county commissioners, maybe with the council's group too, they're going to ask for a list of people, ask for people from the county and the local area to submit their names to be used for any of the county offices that want to get a quote or proposal. So with the idea that Michelle could have picked up the phone and asked for 3 different quotes from 3 different people, because the 3 quotes that she had, they weren't basically apples to apples. So we're going to ask people from the county to submit their name or their business name if they want to be considered for these proposals.
I think Ben's going to put that on our website
Okay,
for them to fill out a form, and then,
so pass that on to people that you know might want to do business with Fayette County.
Would that be something to be good to put in the newspaper as well, so that other people can take advantage of that?
Yeah, it can be.
Because not everybody's going to check the website.
No,
Channel
but
3 would be
they
another
could be
source.
directed to the website, yeah.
That's a good point. I think we can make sure we get that talked about. and
Basically
the-
a vendor.
Yes. And I think it may be
Oh,
because we had a representative from the paper here this morning. Keep going down. Judge Bush came and had a conversation with AJ, and AJ's basically approved the contract with the 2 juvenile detention centers, and she's going to get that mailed to Cedar Bridge and Warnley. We had a report from the Mr. Westerfield about the cemetery work they've been doing to identify and prioritize the work that needed to be done. I think they're on the agenda for later, and we'll hear more about that. Tourism Board appointment, they're asking for a renewal of the last representative. Was that Mr. McQuinley?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinley, or also perhaps Brad Wilson. So they're going to be thinking about that for the next 2 weeks, if anybody else knows of someone that might be interested in serving. The capital plan, they're continuing to work on that with the meeting Friday and additional discussion. And Debbie brought up this morning about wanting to talk to Kent Urban, the advisor on personnel matters, so that we can update the personnel handbook with a suggestion about how we can save money for 65 and older employees, and also that's perhaps a $10,000 a year savings. and also to incorporate the work that AJ did for us about rehiring employees, to include that, both of those items in the personnel manual. And that was hopefully close to the end of the meeting, because that was the last of the notes that I took. Okay, and then we went on to the Economic Development Group representative, and Pete had another commitment this evening and sent Brenda with the information. Does everybody have that? Brenda, I'm already lost mine.
Oh, did you lose yours?
Yes. There it is.
Okay.
Everybody have a copy from Brenda, the update for April? I think, go back to my notes about Pete. Pete told us that the Low Bills facility is going to become the new home for Tractor Supply. Project D'Arsenal continues to progress, and he should hear some significant information here in the next couple of days. Brenda identified that Project Jet, we'll know from them in another,
It should be tomorrow.
tomorrow. We'll hear one way or the other about that. Project R, I think we talked about that earlier today. That one will be considered closed because of the TSC business moving in. Project R would no longer be interested. What else is on here?
Project Maury, that's a big project.
Pardon?
Project Maury is one a big one we're working on now, but not sure what information to
Okay.
share with that.
I don't think he gave much on that this morning.
No, just that we continue to talk with the
Right.
people that we visited out in New Jersey a couple of weeks ago. And then, of course, you see down at the bottom, one more lead from the state, Project Jason. I've noticed, Brenda, so I asked you, as I've been looking at these reports, it seems like the state leads, there have been more of the state's leads in these last couple of months. Maybe that's because of the new administration, maybe it's because of the right to work law.
Could be. And then we also just got our quarterly report from them. I should have brought it tonight to share. It tells you where all these projects went, like where they decided to go and all that. So it's kind of new information that was good to get
Good.
that. And we can start sharing that too.
Well, and we talked about that too, so that eventually these projects that just drop off, we can learn from them, whether, was it something that they went to a different state, or was it they went to a different county? You know, if the state has that information, they are now feeding that information back to the EDG group. So maybe we can jump on something, or we can learn something new from that. Was there anything else?
And then we closed on K&K Electric. They did a loan with us for $80,000 to expand their business. So that was a good thing that we just closed on Monday.
Okay. I think they definitely would be interested in being on that
Yes.
bidder list. There was some discussion maybe by the Economic Development Group at some time of putting a list together. I read that in the notes
We
somewhere.
actually have a little list
Mhm.
already together.
Okay.
If you would like us to share that with you.
Okay, well, yes, that, we can combine the best of both worlds.
Okay.
Okay.
Send it on.
Any questions for Brenda? No?
Hey, Brenda, on the Tractor Supply, has there been any money commitment from the EDG board to them?
Not as of yet.
Oh,
They haven't even asked.
Okay, because I know on Project R, that they was wanting something like $50,000 for a new roof, so
Correct.
with that, with Tractor Supply coming in, looks like it's gonna save some money, 50,000.
That, and then also there's a company called Roses, and I'm just becoming familiar with them, and they're sort of a lower line Walmart sort of store, and they're looking into the Fashion Bug area in that mall. So they're trying to fill up that section, which would be great.
As long as they don't ask for a bunch of money, we'll be
Right,
okay.
so far they haven't.
That's great.
That's good. New business, and we can save money and have additional shopping. Well, actually, did Pete indicate this morning too that there is some an additional activity up there in the,
We can't
With
say
the
the
Frank
name
Farm?
right now, maybe in about a week, but there is another company that is committing to up north too.
Okay.
So, at a pretty big store.
oh, good. It is great news to hear, good news. Anything else for,
Should we guess?
You can try.
You won't say get in warmer, cold, or hot, huh?
No, I can't.
I'll put you on the spot since Keith's not here.
Well, it's being recorded, you know, so.
Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Any old business?
Shirley, can you back up just a minute?
Yes.
Jay was up there and took his seat before real quickly. I wasn't clear. Jay, do you need a transfer request?
No, I was just letting you know, with our 144 we got for part-time, we're set on that. I was just letting you know what we're doing.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether you needed a transfer request or not.
I brought it before the commission board to make sure it was all right to do it, and I wanted to let you people know what I was doing. But if
Okay.
you think I was trying to sneak anything by,
All right, well, thanks, but I didn't want you to leave here empty-handed. That's what you needed.
Okay, and while we're talking about Jay, and we're at an old business, but not that you qualify for that at all, Billy, but I don't see your name down there. Did you have something you wanted to share with us?
I am, just waiting till you guys are done to go to
The tour, the tour. Okay, thank you. Then let's move down to new business, and the first item, or the only item, I guess, is the Cemetery Commission. Corinne?
Good evening. Lenny Westerfield wasn't able to be here tonight. He's the high school coach for the baseball team, so they had a game out of town. So he asked me to step in. We are asking for funds to be moved to another line. I believe the line would be 4. And we approximately asked for $7,000. This would cover for new equipment and things that we're wanting to purchase down the road, not as of this moment. We had bids and our highest one came under $7,000 for all the things that we were looking at supply-wise.
I know that there was some discussion this morning about what different type of equipment. That seemed like a lot of money for chainsaws and weed eaters.
Absolutely everything when it comes together totals up quite high. What we were looking at though for the low end of our bidding was right at $5,500. What we were told in asking all the information when we were getting this to move the money to another line was that we don't have to have everything that we need to spend at this time, but if there's things that we need to purchase out of it when we come back to spend that money, that it will already be allotted there for those kind of funds to be spent. So that's why we gave it that total. Of course, anything that's given will be appreciated.
Okay.
Do you have a list of these items?
Yes, we do have. Do you have those with you during this time?
have a presentation. I'm going to go through that now.
Yeah. Probably we can count them down.
I think we kind of flip-flopped, perhaps maybe the transfer as down in number 9 and the new business number 7. So I think it works either way.
Yeah, that wasn't, oh yeah, I did add that on there. I didn't think we had that prior to when the agenda came.
I think it's all
It's okay.
about,
We always just have our,
thank you. We don't quite have our overhead working yet, but otherwise we could put that up there. So if you would just speak to your report,
Oh, okay.
otherwise we could share it with the rest of the audience.
Yeah, I'm new at this, so please be gentle.
Okay.
My name is Dave Nichols. I became a resident of Fayette County in 1974. My work history, I worked for a couple of companies in Cincinnati and for a couple of factories in Connersville, Indiana. In the mid-70s, I had a part-time job working for the late George Logan, building farm fences in the northern part of the county for several farmers. December 31st, 2010, I retired from the federal government with 31 and a half years service. 25 and a half years of that was with the Corps of Engineers Local District as maintenance mechanic at Brookville Lake. 6 years in the regular Army as a combat engineer. Last year, I volunteered to help Mr. Walters at Old Orange Cemetery. I wanted to learn about tombstone restoration. While helping out there, he came up to the metal fence around the cemetery and the wrought iron fence inside the cemetery needed to be fixed and painted. I volunteered to do this work, and the county supplied me with the paint. The first of the year, I was asked if I would be interested in being a member of the Fayette County Cemetery Commission. Lenny Westerfield and I were appointed in January to join Doug Keller, who was appointed the August before. And we were then told we needed 5 members to make the commission legal. I asked my wife Cindy to join us, and Lenny asked his sister-in-law, Corrine, to join too. They were appointed at the next commissioners meeting, and now we had our 5. To save time and gas, I suggested we divide the county into 4 sections. Each member be assigned a section and be responsible for the cemeteries in their section. That way we're not missing any cemeteries. We have 80 documented and so far 2 undocumented cemeteries that we were responsible for. We just sent a list of 20 cemeteries to the county commissioners that we want to be mowed by contract, and 2 others to be added as a twice-a-year mowing. This leaves us with 58 cemeteries, most of which look like, and talking to the landowners, haven't been touched since 2006. One property owner I contacted didn't even know she had a Pioneer Cemetery on her property, which she has owned since 1994. At our first meeting, which lasted 3 hours, I was chosen to research and decide what kind of tools we needed to best do our jobs. I based this on what I thought we needed to clean, repair our cemeteries, and on what kind of tools I saw Mr. Walters used. I then made a list of these tools and went to 4 hardware stores in our area to get bids. I showed them pictures, how our Pioneer cemeteries now look, and how bad a shape they're in. I stressed the point of the importance of getting the lowest price possible, that our county was supposedly financially broke, and that we needed, and we would greatly appreciate the lowest bid possible. The only things we got from this former cemetery commission was a 3-ring binder and of the past minutes and a copy of the bylaws. We are missing 20 years of records, forms, financial records, inventory of tools and copies, and yearly reports to the county commissioners and to the state of Indiana. The last yearly report made to the state of Indiana was in 2006 for the 2005 year, which we got offline, which was kind of helpful in a way. It kind of showed us what's been going on, expenditures and that sort of thing. Going by the Indiana code governing Pioneer cemeteries, which was given to us by a private citizen, you must turn in a yearly report to the state of Indiana by March 1st, and to the county commissioners and the county council, which I don't know if the yearly report has been being turned into the county council on a yearly basis. Because we have no foundation to work from, and it's like starting over, we decided to meet twice a month for the first 4 months. So far, we've come up with several forms to use. Some we've sent to Mr. Bryson to screen and or to the county commissioners for approval. 4 of the 5 cemetery commissioners have full-time jobs. That's why we want to use volunteers to help with the work. Mr. Walters is going to have a workshop for us and our Fayette County resident volunteers. This workshop will cover tombstone cleaning, restoration, and resetting. Mr. Walters told us there was a class in Indy that we, the Fayette County Cemetery Commission members, should attend because it covers the legal aspects of Pioneer cemeteries. The cost is $30 a person. I was told couple of months ago that we had $400 in our account to use. I was going to ask if we could have $150 of that to send all 5 members to the class ending in June. But I was then told, when we had to come in front of the commissioners to ask for money for tools, that that $400 had to go towards tools. So my wife went ahead and signed us up for the classes in June, paid the $60 fee. So far, counting equipment, materials, classes, and loss of wages, my wife and I are over $300 invested in this volunteer project so far. As of this date, the only financial help we have received so far is from Mr. Walters with free classes, and from my wife's employer, American Printing, which is donating 250 business cards to each member of the council. A picture laminated ID card to be worn by each member while on the job site, and a laminated placard to hang from each person's rearview mirror for identification while parked alongside county roads. Some other points I want to talk about is tool inventory. When we get these tools, I'm going to have a spreadsheet, list all the tools so we have a record of them. With my former job, every year we did a tool inventory. That's what I want to do here. So every year we can account for our tools and put it in our report. I also want to engrave all our tools when we get them, which I guess we'll have to buy the engraver because I didn't put it in the sheet. Also want to have a sign-out sheet because we're all going to be working at different hours, different times. We're volunteers. The sign-out sheet will have a place for the tool, the person's name, the time they sign the tool out, the time they bring it back, and then a column at the end for approximate hours the tool was used on the job site. That way we can use that information at the end of the year for our yearly report. I think that'll be helpful. Another thing I want to talk about is trees. Trees are detrimental to pioneer cemeteries. We have a whole bunch of trees growing up in these little pioneer cemeteries. And then also we're faced with the green emerald borer heading this way. It's already, the infestation has already reached Indy. It's coming this way. We need to get these trees down. And with that in mind, I was wanting post. I put that on my bid sheet because all these cemeteries need new fencing put up. They're in sad shape. Some of them don't even have fencing around them. And it seems kind of, I thought we could save money when I cut these trees down to cut them to post length, which in one of the cemeteries I've already done that, but I need splitting wedges and sledgehammers so I can break them up into line post and corner post. Truck, we could use a truck. I don't really want us to have a truck because of the $1,500 which was paid last time for insurance, which if we're really hurting for money, that's taken away from equipment. The reason I wanted Burke and Waterloo added to the mowing contract, these cemeteries are over 40 grave cemeteries. They sit back in a field, and the only time you get to them, what I was told, is in the spring of the year, in the fall of the year anyway, because you have to go across the crop fields to get to them. And I can't see us having mowing equipment like a walk-behind mower or a riding mower just for 2 cemeteries that you're only going to use 4 times a year. And that would be better to have that done under contract. Records and files. We were told this morning at the meeting they had a box of files. Those files was the ones that John Walters brought up and turned into the courthouse. They do not have any financial records in them. They do not have any inventory of tools, which we would like to have. And also the classes that Walt is going to be giving us, we'll be wanting to put that into practice as soon as possible after we have those classes, because it's not going to do us any good to have those classes and wait 4 or 5 years till we get the cemeteries in shape to start working on the stones. So we'll be needing in that list because I don't know what all the adhesives and caulk and that sort of stuff that he uses, how much that stuff's going to cost. And any additional tools that I didn't see him use at the site, how much they're going to cost. On my additional tools equipment list, because I was told this is a one-time shot, I had the steel wood splitting wedges for, which I already explained. We'll need some kind of step ladder so we can work on the taller stones to wash them and then eventually polish them. Or one section of scaffolding would be nice too. Electric fans, because when I was out there working with Walt, watching his guy do the polishing, it takes him a day to polish one stone. And when he got done, he was covered with white dust. And I was thinking if you had a fan, because you have a generator, to kind of blow that dust away from you so you're not sitting there breathing all that dust all day long. Tripod, we found out was custom built by Fuzzy Lake. Walt said that when he had his, it was around $400. And so we're thinking it would cost around $500 today. But Walt has one, and he's willing to sell it to us for $100. He has an extra. Fire extinguishers, if we get the old shop, I just figured safety, 2 5-pounders and 1 3-pound for the office. And I like to have an auto type for the generators. And then a basic tool set, used desks and chairs, filing cabinets, and a used computer from hopefully from the courthouse. The old Vistion plant, possibly maybe getting a desk and a filing cabinet and chairs from there. And I think some of the offices in the courthouse are getting new computers. If we could have one of theirs they're old ones for record keeping, and so we can put our records on CDs instead of having all this paper. A printer, scanner, and copier would be nice. We'll have to have blank CDs, skeins of paper, sledgehammer to go with the wedges, straight claw hammer for when you start building fences. Duffel bags. I know but the duffel bags are for, with the shoulder straps, are for us to put on our back, put our tools in, because it's hard to carry a bunch of tools in your hands and go across, because some of these cemeteries you have to walk anywhere from a quarter to a half mile to get back to them. And the duffel bags also, I priced them at the Army Surplus Store of Richmond. They're $16 a piece. The problem with him, he only has 2 in stock. And dealing with him last year, trying to get him to, he'll say he orders it, but it takes forever. But I found a place on, or a catalog where I can get them for $17 a piece. One room air conditioner for the office if we do get a computer. First aid kits, we need 1 for each team, and then 1 for the shop. American flags, we have cemeteries that have flagpoles in them, and American Legion is going to furnish us a flag for the one at Russell because it's viewable from 44, and they're going to furnish us with that flag, but we still have other cemeteries that have flagpoles, and we'd like to have new flags for them. The brass dowel rods are used in the stones. Some have pins inside the stones, and if Walt says you don't want to use steel, because the steel, when it rusts, it swells and then it breaks out the stone. But he said if you use the brass ones, the brass rods, they don't swell up, and plus if somebody hits it with a mower or something, they bend, they don't break the stone. Sackcrete, we're going to need several bags of sackcrete. I want to try to repair Thomas Cemetery. It has a concrete wall around it. I've had, through the Corps, I've had concrete training. And a metal fence post pounder, even though I would like to use the one from the highway garage because it's really nice, but the problem is signing it out and getting it back in time before they close. And plus they don't work on weekends. And that's about it. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Yes, sir.
How many cemeteries are there of pioneer cemeteries?
There's 80.
There's 80?
Plus there's 2 undocumented. that we just recently found.
How many volunteers do you have?
We're working on a list right now. Walt wants to keep class to 30. That's 5 of us, plus there'll be 25 volunteers, full-time volunteers. Now there'll be, at times to maybe get scouting troops, getting prisoners to help us out. But they want a permanent list so we can turn into to Debbie so they can be covered under our insurance, the county's insurance.
Would that be under workman's comp, Debbie, or,
That would be so they would be covered under the workman's comp.
okay, how much more will that cost?
They'd be covered under, I thought it was separate, but Brad Wilson says it's like $904, but that covers
Everything?
other things where would require, it isn't just the cemetery department.
How many hours a week do you think will these people volunteer?
I don't know
You don't know?
yet, because like with the folks who have full-time jobs, the board commissioner have full-time jobs, they're probably the only time they'll be working is weekends. For me, I'm thinking maybe 2 full days during the week. To get the cemeteries back, if you look at that thing there I brought in, the pictures on the left are what the cemeteries looked like in 2006. The pictures on the right is the same, 2 pictures are the same cemeteries and what they look like now. I know that's not a very good comparison because the one is taken in the summertime and the others are taken in February. But they've really been stagnated. They haven't done anything with these cemeteries in all this time.
You think you can contact some churches and youth groups to help you?
I think so, yes.
I know you could, and I know our church would be more than happy to, we're big into that.
I think,
And I think Mr. Westerfield said this morning that there's a couple of other civic groups that have expressed interest in helping with the project, but basically because they're starting, from scratch, the other tools, some of them went into the auction.
and some of them, well, that's what I said, I can't find, we can't get the old inventory, after they even kept the inventory.
Yeah, we have a fixed asset program, so yeah, we do have.
Well, we haven't been able to see it yet, so, because the tools that were sold at the auction couldn't have been all the tools that they had, so.
Question for you. Did you say that there was a place where this equipment would be kept at?
We're hoping to get the old cemetery building. I don't know
Okay.
if we're going to get that or not.
I noticed that, going through your list real quickly here, that you've gone to Lowe's and Menards and Gilman's, and, we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples as far as quality of equipment, in which I'm sure you understand. A pull-on saw versus a steel chainsaw is night and day.
Right.
I think we need to take into consideration the serviceability of the equipment, the longevity of it.
Right. When I went to Menards and asked them for their help, they said the best they could do is go through the store and price their cheapest tools. And if the difference between Menards and Lowe's is $79, and Lowe's is high-quality tools. What they're doing is they went down and added everything up, and then they're knocking 20% off of that, and that's a big savings. So forget the top, and our contractor, Corey, said that we needed to get a good quality weed eater.
You do.
Because he said the kind of mowing we'll be doing, he said those little cheap ones, they're all right around the house, but the kind of work that we'll be putting them through, they wouldn't last the summer.
Who's going to be using this equipment, like the chainsaws and the weed eaters, things of that nature?
Just
If my little kid came walking out there.
No, we're going to put a rule that has to be 18 years old.
Okay. I mean, I don't know liability-wise, if we can do anything to protect ourselves, the county.
We have blanket waivers and liabilities that we've handed out that all volunteers should be signing, and certainly everybody who belongs on the cemetery commission, we gave them waivers as well. But I guess the blanket policy we have right now is they're all covered under workers' comp too, so they are insured. But
Yeah, if we have a list prior to the work being done.
One of the things I was noticing that's not on your list is chaps. I think that's something that should be considered for using a chainsaw.
Yeah, well, I put on there the chainsaw helmet, and Lowe's was the only one that actually put a chainsaw helmet. Everybody else just put a regular hard hat on.
Right, because I know with the face shield and
Right,
the regular, the standard ear protection, not just your disposable earplugs.
right,
Got to be concerned about that.
right.
Any other questions?
The only thing is I'd like some time as a council to look through this list and maybe work with this gentleman and with one of the commissioners and go through everything and make sure that there's things that you have, that maybe you didn't think about,
Yeah,
that we should be under, because as you said, it's a one-time shot.
Right, and
So let's
I
make sure we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's, and you've got most everything you want.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
I would rather do that than maybe wait a month before we give you final blessing on it.
Well, the
I
problem,
understand where you're at,
We're
because
under the
time
gun
crunch and
first.
stuff is growing, or maybe we have surely maybe we have a special meeting between then too, but I think that we need some time as a council to look through your list and determine, does this all make sense? You know? As you notice, I appreciate you bringing up the inventory system and wanting to do that. I commend you on that. That's something you need to do, of course. I noticed on one of your lists here that there were some missing items that obviously was from the previous, commission. It looked like unless it was missing from your list, I interpret it as these things were missing from the cemetery commission themselves. I'll find it here. On your quote from Lowe's, it just says missing Pulaski Axe.
right, they don't, some people don't even know what a Pulaski Axe
Okay,
is.
so it just was missing off of this bid.
Right, and
Okay.
he said that he would special order the chain, or the chain hoist if we
Okay.
wanted.
I mean, things like service, where are we gonna get your chains sharpened and things like that? I mean, is that something you're gonna do, or?
Well, I figure I'd just take it down and pay it out of my own pocket, go down the road here to this guy down here. on 121.
Well, what I'm saying is if you can maybe set something up with somebody local here that they do it for a year, you say, we'll bring X amount of chains in, you might be able to save yourself some money, and I think there's ways that we can do this to maybe save yourself some additional money and get everything that you want.
Okay.
I'd also like to add, and we have this transfer request form, and so maybe I'm hearing that we want to table until the commissioners can make a recommendation. The transfer request form is asking to move $7,000, is your estimate, from the stone restoration budget line item. And don't let me put words in your mouth, but what I was hearing from the meeting this morning and you now, you're hoping to be able to do some of the simple restoration after the appropriate
Well,
training.
all of it.
But I'm not certain what the commissioners had in mind without having their recommendation first. So perhaps after they act, we can know what might or might not be left in that line item based on what their budget, what they had budgeted. I know Mr. Walters did some of that for the county last year.
And he was gonna finish up Orange. He asked us, did we wanna finish up Orange, or did he wanna go ahead and do it? And I thought since how he already started on Orange, maybe he would go ahead and finish it, and we'd go out there and help him. So we help with our training.
Well, I know I can speak to the council because I've been here for each of the different meetings that this group has grown and organized, been very thorough in their planning, and I think that's ultimately going to save the county a substantial amount of money, but at the same time provide the dignity and the improvement that we'd like to with these pioneer cemeteries. But again, we are, budget is very tight everywhere, and without hearing from the commissioners what they want to do with that line item before we transfer. So I don't know, someone want to make a particular motion? And
Martin said
again, I'm jumping down to the transfer.
Martin said he wanted to see what the mowing contracts were gonna be, and then move from that. And I don't think they'll be any much more different than they were last year, but we don't know, so we can't make a decision on something we don't know. That was was his suggestion, and then move on to this after that case, so.
Okay. Well, and also, I think you're making a recommendation to add 2 for mowing. Did I
Well,
do
those
that?
two, why would we want mowing equipment just for 2 cemeteries that are only gonna get mowed 4
Right.
times? I mean, it doesn't, you're talking about saving money, well, you know, that'd be a waste for us to have mowers.
And Mr. Nichols, I don't want you to think that I'm opposed to what you guys are doing, and what you're requesting. I'm all for it. I just want to make sure that you get the most bang for your buck.
Right.
And that we're getting everything, and then we're thinking it through and, you know, putting a bunch of minds together. And sometimes, you know, I dealt in this professionally, selling of the equipment. I'm familiar with it. You know, are we thinking about things like, you know, you're gonna have to clear some shrubs or something from some of you're reclaiming some of these grave sites? Are we thinking about that through, or changing the heads on the weed eaters and things like that to make them more versatile, and just things of that nature? I'd like just some discussion on that, so we could make sure we're covering all of our bases here.
Right.
And that you get everything that's required.
How many members put this list together? How many of you? Were there?
Just me and my wife.
You? But, okay, so you put it together and everybody discussed it, felt that you had everything you need.
Well, everything I thought I needed, because like I said,
Okay, yeah.
we don't have an inventory list of what the former cemetery maintenance man had. We have no idea, I mean, we have some idea.
Well, and I think Debbie said that we can go back into our inventory program, and we can provide that to you, and perhaps, you know, see what we could do to find out the
No one
disposition.
ever asked for that, so.
And a lot of that stuff we don't need, like the mowers and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, gentlemen,
I just make a motion to table it and have a discussion, joint discussion with the commissioners, if that's possible.
second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay.
You got a question?
It's my understanding that once this line item is approved and moved for us, we still have to get the commissioner's approval to spend it. So even if we got the money moved, that doesn't mean we can spend it.
I just think we need to have a discussion to make sure that
Yeah,
we're
I
all
think
on the
so
same page.
too.
And then once we as a joint, you know, commissioners, council discuss it, I think you've got a green light. I don't think there's a concern there. I just want to make sure you have everything, and that we're, you know, not too much of one thing, not enough of another, and that's all. I'm just trying to make sure that you guys can do your job, and I applaud you and commend you for volunteering your time and doing what you can. I appreciate it.
Now, is it a possibility that we can get another meeting in? And also, another question is, do we have to go with one place for all things we buy? Can we pick the cheapest,
I
the
think
best and the cheapest around, or do we have to go one place?
Having dealing with sales and so forth, I think you're gonna get a better price if you put a proposal together, and that company outfit knows that there's a potential of us getting all the business. I know for a fact that weed eaters and chainsaws, there's not a lot of market, there's not a lot of margin there. So, you know, they can make money on other things. Plus, there's a special funding that or special discounts they can apply for a government entity, and so forth and so on. Cheapest isn't always the best, you know. And I just think if we can have a discussion, we can do that. And of course, I would encourage local if we can. But again, if the cost if it just, you know, doesn't make sense financially to do it here, we're saving, you know, $1,000 or so dollars to go somewhere else, then you know, we gotta save the money for the taxpayers.
Can I point out that between Gilman's bid and Lowe's bid is almost $1,400 difference.
And I didn't.
And I went back to Gilman's, and after I got Lowe's bid, and asked them if they wanted to revisit and maybe give us a discount or try to match Lowe's, and they flat out refused.
Okay.
They
I
stood
had a
behind the
discussion with
original.
them, and I think that there may be an opportunity to have them revisited. But that doesn't mean that they'll come $1,400 down. That doesn't mean that. You know, again, are we comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges as far as equipment? So,
Well, I gave all of them the same
I understand.
bid
I understand.
sheet. I
I
didn't
think though
change
what
it.
you're saying when it comes to the versatility with the weed eaters and things like that, that could actually knock out certain things that we don't need on our list. So I
Right.
mean, what you're saying, I do understand exactly what you're meaning.
For
by
example,
that.
if you say you wanted a hedge trimmer, and you've got a piece of equipment that can handle both things, which steel makes, I'm not a steel salesman, by the way, I'm not trying to push steel products. But I just happen to know that product line, and there's a lot of versatility with some of that stuff where you can get a lot more use. You know, if you're getting the tree bent shaft, weed trimmer, and you're having to cut little 3/4 inch saplings, that's not gonna happen, you're gonna tear that weed eater up.
But that's, well, okay.
But that's what I'm saying, is we just discuss it, and you say, hey, we don't need that, we have no use for that, none of the sites that we have entail that, we don't foresee that, that's fine. But I just think you get more minds into this to help, not to hinder you.
Right. If we get the inventory, we can see what they had before, which might help.
I look forward to that. For what we've accomplished with just a small group, to be able to get more people's input, I think we'll be able to get a lot more out of that.
I agree, I think you'd be more effective.
Okay.
All right.
We've got,
Thank you.
it's been moved and seconded that we table this until the next meeting. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Additional, are we gonna do this, are we gonna do this at the next meeting, or are we gonna have a special meeting?
I think we should try that sooner.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mike?
Mark was asking if we should have to wait for the next regular scheduled council meeting, if we can try to have a special meeting prior to that to get moving on this a little quicker.
Because they want to get this stuff off.
That would be my recommendation.
To have a special meeting?
Yes.
After the commissioners' meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we'll, maybe Zane can take this information on, and based on what you're acting, if you think it's important that we respond quickly, you could make a recommendation for a special meeting. Okay.
That's fine.
Do you want to set a time for us all to get together with some of you?
Well, I don't see why you can't be at that same meeting.
No, I would think you'd be part, I think you need to be a part of it.
Part of that meeting.
Okay.
I think it's important to be a part of it, that we don't dictate to you what equipment you're going to have. You're the one that's going to be working with it, but I think input from others is a welcome process.
And we can see if we can get John Walters as well.
Okay.
Because he would have more knowledge, he could help with other kinds of restoration.
Because I may be volunteering my time too.
I got a chainsaw sharpener, I'll be happy. Sharpen chains for nothing.
Martin did mention this morning also, as well as getting Walter in on this to kind of cover some ground and figure out what's going on.
And he can attend that.
We'll have to see what his schedule is. He's got several restorations he's got in process, so. When we find out the date.
We don't know when it's gonna be.
Okay.
This doesn't.
Okay, item number 8, additional appropriations, county general, treasurer, part-time, Mary.
The additional.
There's the additional that's there.
We have the additional request here for 5,000
That's for more part-time.
to cover 2 part-time employees.
Well, it depends on how many hours I can get them to work. I mean, you know, some part-time don't want to come in very much, you know, a couple hours a day or so. It just depends. I'm right now I'm at a point where I think it's a security issue in my office. The more people you get in there, the more people knows the numbers, the more people can come across the codes or whatever to the bank accounts or to the logins for the bank account. I don't want that to happen. I would love to see my full-time employee back in so that we can get that taken care of. I mean, I don't want a bunch of part-time people because we can't, security-wise, I don't think it's a wise move to have several people in there. I'm just now we've got the checking accounts are going to be switched over, so a new number's there. We're going to the direct deposit. That helps with the security. But every day we have to log into that bank account and check the positive pay and make sure the checks, there's no exceptions or anything. If my employee and I can't be there, There's nobody can do that. And that has to be done every day, as Mrs. Wise has been in this week to work with us and help with us, and she saw how Sarah she spends usually a couple hours in the morning getting all that stuff done of a morning, and I don't want to give a login code for the bank account to a part-time employee that just is once in a while. It's not a smart move.
Help me.
Okay.
Your request here is for 2 part-time employees.
For
$5,000.
Because
To hire 2 part-time employees.
because that's what I was told, that nobody gave me any reference as to whether I would get my full-time employee back or not. So in order to cover some of the help through tax time, I put in for an additional part-time. I wouldn't need that if I had more, if my full-time is back. But you guys forgot that I've been without that full-time employee since July of last year, not since December, like most of the offices have been without since December. I've been out since July. So that's it's a longer period of time. And no, we're not getting ahead in the office. It takes every minute to do what we have to do. And with tax season and those things coming up, it's just getting worse.
The last meeting you came to, we asked you a lot of questions and you didn't have any answers for us. We asked you how many extra hours do you think this person would need? You didn't have an answer. We asked you how many additional months do you think you need a part-time person? You didn't have an answer. So it's hard for us to approve anything when you don't have any answers for us. If you don't have specific answers for us, we can't just blindly okay something.
Okay, I have about 15 days to get the tax statements run. We have run the personal property and the mobile homes so far. We can't run the rest of them until we can extract the data for the banks and mortgage companies. Hopefully that starts tomorrow, because we gave them until tomorrow to get that back to us. We have to extract that data. I had 2 girls folding statements today, and they've still got a stack of statements this high of mobile homes. It's going to take at least 2 more people for the next 2 weeks to help with getting those statements folded. I have one girl that runs them continuously. When she's running statements, she's at that printer running statements all day. So she can't be folding and stuffing envelopes until that. No, to tell you exactly how much I need, I can't tell you. I can't tell you, because if I can get 2 part-time people that know what they're doing and can fold those statements and sort those statements and take care of them the way they should be taken care of, it could take me less time than if I get 3 people that have no clue what they're doing. And for the most part, that's what I'm going to get, is people that don't have a clue what they're doing. To learn the system, to do that kind of thing, it takes time. It just takes time. And right now we're in this pinch. We have had a new computer system dumped on us now that we didn't know when it was going to be set up, when would we have to be trained. We had a person come in last week to train us. That took a day away from our tax statements and stuff like that. So, here we are doing that. I'm trying to do the best I can do. To tell you exactly how many hours I need 33 and a half hours a week. I need that full-time person back.
Is your full-time person that you lost, is that person still available?
I haven't talked to her for a few days. It's a good possibility she is available.
Would that alleviate some of your concerns about passwords and logins? Because
Yes, it would.
It doesn't seem to resolve the issue if we get you 2 part-time people and you still don't want to, which I understand. It makes sense to me. about giving up the login information?
Well, it's just like the other day, we had a gentleman come in, and we were not notified that there was going to be an officer or someone from the state going through the courthouse, asking questions, checking on security. We weren't notified about that. He came in, he flashed a badge.
I didn't know it.
He flashed a badge to my girl and said he was there they were doing a study for the security of the courthouse. And she assumed it was okay. When I talked to the commissioners, they didn't know anything about it. Debbie just said she didn't know anything about it. Come to find out, yes, it was okay because the judge and the sheriff knew about it, but we didn't know about it. And he came in and took some pictures, and asked all kinds of questions about the safe and what our deposits are and how the deposits are taken to the bank. And, you know, that put me on alarm when I was told about it, because at that time I was not there when he showed up. Had I been, I don't think I would have given him any information at all.
Right, yeah, I would agree with that.
So your full-time person, if you could get that person back, that you wouldn't have to have the 2 part-timers?
I wouldn't have to have 2 part-time. I still have to have 1 part-time through tax seasons, both tax seasons.
What, another couple months?
Yeah, I wouldn't, if I could get my full-time employee, I wouldn't need that much in part-time help. But I would need the help between, you know, right now, running the statements and getting that taken care of. And then again in the fall when we run mail and we have the extra people coming in. Yeah.
AJ, that's exactly why I'd like to set up a rainy day fund for stuff like this, emergency things that we can tap into that's available. And at the end of the year, if we don't use it, obviously, then we do something with it. That's why I want to establish a rainy day fund to that.
There is a rainy day fund for the county.
But I want to use it out of that edit money because it's operating and maintaining,
Well,
services for the taxpayers.
that would be all, you know, well and good, but let's kind of stay to
Okay, but that's one.
the request that she has. We have in front of us a request for $5,000 to transfer, or an additional for $5,000 for 2 part-time employees to prepare and mail the tax statements. I understand what you're saying,
Yeah, okay.
what we'd ultimately like to do, but
What if you went with the full-timer back and a part-timer, would that 5,000 take care of it?
It wouldn't take care, I probably wouldn't take care of that. I don't know exactly what it would need for the rest of the year for a full-time employee. I'm not sure, I haven't looked at the salary line for that. I wouldn't need that much in part-time for the rest of the year. So, you know, that would lessen I'd have to refigure the part-time portion of it and then have the payroll clerk figure the salary line for the thing. And another thing, I want to thank Mrs. Weiss for, she's been in our office and has been going through and watching what we do and the things that go on in our office on a daily basis. It's been very, very helpful for us to do that.
well, it has been a very educational experience for me, and I don't want to, you know, take the time here, but certainly, you know, when the phone rings, you have to answer it. Probably is a taxpayer on the line with a question, but it has been very eye-opening. I did just a few numbers here. The approximately 594 hours, that'd be 20 weeks at 30 hours per week. Am I in the ballpark there?
Yeah, probably.
And I know that you also suggested last week that we consider, you know, outsourcing this to get us by. And whether you didn't, again, like Mike suggested, we didn't have the apples-to-apples comparison. Have you given any more thought to that? I know that...
At this point in time, it's pretty much a moot point because I have the statements. We are running statements now. I mean, I couldn't change and outsource now. That's too late. I did check a few of the companies for the outsourcing. I thought they were a little expensive myself. I got the statements and the TS1s, receipts and envelopes for less than $2,000. That's the stock that's needed. So, but all of the companies that I talked to couldn't give me a definite plan on how much postage would be. You know, they said, oh, around this or around that, but they wouldn't give me a definite postage amount.
Well, I had some information, as you know, you shared that with me, and I got the impression going through that there might be some savings there with the postage, because they can do things with the new postal barcodes, et cetera, and so that there could be a substantial savings
And there is a
there.
company that can do that with us doing the statements. There's a company that will come pick up the statements, change, put the barcodes on and everything, and do some savings on postage also. Our post office also does that for us. All we do is sort them by zip codes, and we have been doing that for the last few years, and there is a savings on that.
And I'm thinking that we did some checking last year, probably the cost for all the supplies, the statements, the postage, et cetera, was a little over $10,000. Does that sound like
It
what
wasn't
you
quite that
remember?
much, no.
That we could have used that to compare.
We sent about 10,000 statements out, but I don't think that
Okay,
it was actually that.
I had
cost.
11,000, and just the forms, the part-time, the postage, I think printer ink. Put my hands on it.
I'd have to go back with my records and find out.
Okay. Well, again, we have this in front of us. Do we have any, what, the rest of the council, questions?
Yes, if you don't mind, Mary, let me try to put a timeline on this. Today's Tuesday, April the 1st, or April the 2nd. What day do you have to have your statements
I
in
have
there?
to mail these statements by the 25th.
By the 25th of April. Okay. You got 3 weeks. You got,
Not quite 3 weeks.
well, if you count the work days, you've got 3 weeks.
And 2 days.
You got somewhere between 11 and 14,000 statements to mail.
It really depends. Last year we mailed about 10,500 in regular envelopes, and then we did mail some in manila envelopes. So there is a little bit of difference there.
Okay, so you're printing statements now.
Mhm.
You and Sarah and your present part-timer working on that, right? Now, if you had 2 extra part-time people right now, what
I've
would
only
they-
got 16 days to get these statements done, not 3 weeks. We don't work Saturdays and Sundays.
Well, there's the problem.
3 work weeks.
What can I say?
We have,
You're right, 16 days, okay, give you that. Let's go back to, okay, the 3 people in your office now are printing statements, right?
2.
2 plus a part-timer. You already have 1 part-timer there, right? And you want 2 more part-timers.
If I can't get my full-time employee back.
I don't think the hopes of that right now is very good. But how long will you need the 2 extra part-timers to get you through the spring mailing season? And then you'll need some extra time in May, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taxes are
I will
due.
have to have part-time help probably until, for 2 weeks after the date that they are due. So probably till at least the 24th of May or so, the last part of May.
Are they gonna
Because
be,
we'll have all the mail to be doing them.
statements are gonna be due May 10?
Mhm.
Okay. And then you will probably be opening mail the following week, right?
We'll be opening mail for probably 2 weeks.
You
It
have
should take you to the 24th.
5 people opening mail.
Not 5 people. We probably won't have that many in there. It just depends.
If you have yourself,
I can't, there's gonna be 1 or 2 of them, 2 people, at least 1 person, maybe 2 people that has to work on, that has to do the public and everything else. That all has to be done too.
okay.
It's not just mailing the statements, it's not just collecting the statements, it's all the other work that has to be done by our office. We don't just sit in there all day long and not do anything.
I wasn't suggesting any such thing, Mary. I know the week of May 12, you'll be closed to the public for settlement, right? Isn't that normal?
Not for settlement, no. But usually we close a week or so after the taxes are due to get the mail done. But I got criticized last year for doing that.
Well, I'd say probably every county treasurer we've had has been criticized for that, for the people that come in late. But that's been the normal and customary practice as long as I can remember. The treasurer's office closes the week after the due date for settlement. Right?
Usually, yes.
And you plan to do that.
If at all possible, yes, I plan to do that, to get things done. Because not only are we going to be doing these statements and getting this stuff done, we're going to be learning this new system for our ledger too.
So we're looking at approximately 6 weeks. 6 weeks worth to get you through the tax season. Okay. At 6 weeks, what was 6 weeks worth of?
Well, we talked about
Costs.
the 5,000 would be basically 20 weeks at 30 hours per week.
How many hours a week would you plan on using your part-timers?
As many as I can to get this job done.
And I think last year in the estimate, when we were looking at last year, you had your other employee for the first half of the year, but not the second half of the year. So the November ones you had to do with part-time.
In November, it's not as strenuous because you're not running the statements at that time. You're not dealing with the tax sale at that time. Usually, you're just dealing with the collection of the taxes at that time, and then afterwards, the opening of the mail and the December settlement. So it is a little less stressful in the fall. Spring is worse.
Yeah, spring is always your busiest time.
But that,
Yes. But you don't have to mail out statements in the fall.
no.
Yeah. Well,
Is this 5,000 gonna get you where you need to be? You gonna get
I
you
hope.
it get you
I
all
hope.
where
It
we-
just depends on, you know, I don't know, I've never had to deal with not having the staff to do the job. So I don't know if a part-time employee comes in and I have to train them and we have to make sure that they know what they're doing. I'm not sure if that's gonna make it. I'm not sure if it's
Where
gonna
are you
do
planning
it.
on looking for these people? I mean, do you have an idea?
I'm hoping to contact the ones that got laid off from this county and see if they'll come in and work. At least they will have a little bit of an idea what is going on in the office and understand it a little bit.
And I guess my approach to this would have been, I would have contacted them prior to coming to this meeting to say if that's a possibility or not. You don't have an answer if they're going to come back, and I understand that. And I understand where you're coming from. You can't get people just off the street and pick them willy-nilly and hope they're going to do the job. I understand what you're saying. But I guess I would have contacted these people to see and say, hey, yes, I have contacted these people. They will come back for part-time employment. I think that would help you and give you some vote of confidence or some confidence that you can get the job completed. not knowing who you're gonna have, I think, is a lot of questions that you have that you obviously can't answer. And so my question is are you gonna come back again in a month or 2 months and say I need another $5,000 transferred? So,
No, I'm not. I am the only office holder that this council has ever questioned about what they need in their office. I'm an elected official just like everybody else is in this courthouse. Nobody ever questioned what the judge needed. Nobody ever questions what the sheriffs need. If I tell you what is needed in my office, I think you could at least listen to what I say.
Mary, we're listening to what you're saying, but unfortunately, the last two meetings, this meeting included, you haven't had a lot of facts and figures for us. And it's hard for me to justify spending taxpayer dollars when you have a lot of questions and you don't have any answers. And I think that's the problem.
To the number of hours I need, I can't tell the number of hours I need because I can't tell whether everybody's going to pay their taxes this year or nobody's going to pay their taxes this year. I can't give you a definite hour that we need. That's just impossible.
And I want to help.
And I figured up a portion of what I would need to have a couple employees. No, I'm not sure who those employees are. I have got one part-time girl that comes in that actually knows the system. I'm hoping to get someone who has worked there before. I have 2 people in mind that I will talk to, that I hope will come in because they know the system. I not only have to have somebody open the mail, I have to have somebody that knows how to post that in that system.
Understand.
I know, Mayor, we're talking about this year, trying to get through this year, but do you have plans that how to avoid this next year, and so this is not a yearly thing? Have you thought that far ahead?
What do you mean?
Well, we're trying to figure out how you're going to get this done this year. But I see this as being an ongoing thing, year after year. They're going to come back and ask for more and more part-time. That's what I'm saying. Do you have a way to solve this next year?
No, I don't have a way to solve it without having another full-time employee. Without having that employee back, no, I don't see a way to solve the problem.
I think
It's a staffing issue. It's not, it's not that they're not capable of doing the job. We are capable of doing the job. We don't have the hours to do the job. I can't work my staff, the one full-time employee I have, I cannot work her hour after hour overtime with the fact that all she gets is comp time. If she gets comp time, she can't take it off because then that leaves us without people to serve the public. That's what bothers me. If there's comp time and she takes a day off, there's people that don't get served. The phone don't get answered. There's times when you can't do it all. That's what bothers me.
Mary, if I could make just a couple statements. I have appreciated the time that I've spent, and I have, on 3 different occasions, I've been in there between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours. So it's given me a much greater appreciation. And Mary and Sarah have been very helpful to help me understand. And we have talked about the need to gather some efficiencies, because certainly, every year we're going to have to get smarter and smarter on how we do things. And again, Mary suggested and gave me copies of the 2 different quotes. And I think for next year, we're definitely looking at a significant cost save for her budget by going
It's not in my budget.
by going to an outside contractor. She has a total budget of X, and I believe that so much of that budget is towards sending out the statements. I've talked with one of the companies that gave her that estimate, and their feeling is that usually they can save the cost of sending them out just in the postage alone, rather, the postage savings that they can do because of their computer programming. Mary would send them the data file, and they would use different certification software to make sure that you have the latest and greatest address from the post office. 18 months, the last 18 months worth of records, this one company has. so that you can make sure you send it to the right person. It doesn't get returned and have to be reprinted and resent out. And the other thing that they go through is that they, probably can't even find the page. Another one of the certifications, they correct for addresses. So maybe it's 103 North 30th Street, and the address that we have is 103 West 30th Street. They compare to what the official post office address, mailing address is, correct it. Give Mary the corrected invoice so that we can correct our records and have the most accurate invoice, especially in this county. People are moving all the time. You have to have a postal change, record change. So those are two of the ways that they can save postage. And then in addition, the fewer ones that come back because they aren't going to the right address, that saves that remailing fee. So there are several areas. That's one particular area. The other thing that Mary and Sarah have talked to me about was the fact that people can go online to make their payments. And the more people that do that, the better. They don't have to have someone come in the door, or they don't have to open the envelope. They do have to go through the process that Sarah does every morning, reconciling the money that's automatically put in the account. And that will continue, and it will continue to get a greater portion of the job if that occurs. But the fact that those are credit card only payments, and the taxpayer has to add 2.9% fee.
2.95%.
Excuse me, 2.95%. But if we do electronic funds transfer, which isn't available today, we could have a greater portion of people go in there.
That's for future, so we can go on all night.
Right, you can go on all night. There are ways we can gain efficiency.
We got one or two choices, when I said, either we approve it, or the statements go out late. Now, what happens if the statements go out late? What's the problem?
Taxing units don't get their money in time.
Until July before. So what happens? What's the worst case scenario if they go out late?
Taxing units don't get their money in time.
Well, in the past, if they were going to be late, we notified the DLGF in advance and said we are going to have a late collection. And because of some things that have happened on the state level, that has happened a couple of times. I know one time it was, in 2003, they had one due date, and that was in December. In 2004, they had a September due date and then a November 10th due date. There was one year it was kicked to November 10th, and then we turned around and had a collection in February. So it's kind of been, and a lot of times that has been caused by things at the state, not really at a local level. So I don't know, we have indicated to the state that we're going to have on-time collection. I don't know. I guess I would have to call the state and see.
If you never got any help, how late, when do you think you could get the statements out by? A day? By the middle of May?
We're going to work on trying to get these out by the date.
I understand that, but you're saying if without the part-time, you're not going to be able to do that, you don't think?
I have people who have told me they would volunteer and come in and work for me. I don't want to use volunteers because of the security issues. I just don't think that's a wise idea.
I won't argue that.
Mary, when you say
And
volunteers...
I apologize for not having all the figures that you would like to have, but I've been very busy trying to catch up with all the computer system that crashed in October and trying to get that all taken care of for the state board and getting those reports into them. And it's been a little time consuming. So if I didn't have all of the figures for you, I'm sorry. I thought that I did put an explanation on the additional to what I was trying to get for right now.
Mary, do you mind if I ask who has volunteered to help you? I mean, is it people that work here in the courthouse and other offices?
No, actually, it's one of it works for the state.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I want those tax statements to be out on time, like everyone else in the county. Now, if we give you $3,000, that'll pay for you two additional part-time employees 30 hours a week
If I can get,
for the next 6 weeks, which is,
uh,
which should get you through this busy season. Is that correct? Okay. In order to keep from taking all night on this, I'll move that we reduce this requested amount to $3,000 and fund the treasurer's office with 2 additional part-time employees that will get married through the next 6 weeks through their busy season. And this time next year, I hope that we can have a plan in place to do our mailing a little bit differently. And
what you mean, do our mailing a little bit different?
just the very project that you and Shirley have been talking about outsourcing the mailing.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we revise the additional appropriation to $3,000 to fund 2 part-time employees for 30 hours a week for 6 weeks. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Next on the list, the prosecutor's office request for $110 to appropriate bad check fund.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3.
Who made that motion?
I'm sorry.
I did.
Jim?
And who seconded it?
Mark?
Mark.
Mark
Mark,
P.
okay.
Third additional is from the auditor's office. Request for $1,500 to pay SRI for contractual services and verify the bill for ineligible homestead deductions. Mark, Nobby? Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Somewhere I buried. Okay. I think we dealt with item number 9 for transfers. It's been tabled. Patron concerns, additional patron concern?
Hold on a second.
Sorry?
Do we have, did Jay leave?
No, AJ's right. Sitting next to
Jay,
Bill.
not AJ,
Oh,
but
Jay
Jay.
left. Jay left.
Okay, because I had, I do have some transfer requests in here for him. And I apologize if you guys didn't, I thought I had included a copy of those in your, maybe
We just have these 3.
and I apologize for that. Oh, and you know what? I bet it's because I didn't, I don't know. Evidently, these were put in here and I didn't get these to you. I think what he's asking for, but you know what? I'm trying to see. Is he asking for, it's just one he's asking for, and he made copies and it got put in the folder and not passed out to you guys. I tell you, want to take one and pass them on down. What Jay is requesting is to transfer $400 from the garage and building repair budget line item to the mechanic assistant. And it says money is needed for mechanic assistant to help in the garage and to help the new mechanic. We've got a new mechanic starting in the garage, and just to get him going. And the original
So we're just moving
budget
400.
line item had $196.40.
Okay.
Left in it had $200, January 1. He wants to move money, so we've given him $596.40. You what?
Does everybody have an opportunity to look at this request to just transfer $400
I'm sorry you didn't have that on.
from the highway department? Just transfer from garage and repair to budget line mechanic
To the
assistant?
mechanic assistant. And this pays the difference in what they would, they get extra money if they work in helping mechanic,
the new mechanic.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
what say, someone?
I'll move to approve this request, or this transfer request from the highway department.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Anything else, David?
No, I think that's pretty much.
Patron concern. Thank you all for your patience this evening. How about, could we entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.